What's up, guys? Welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duns. And today we're studying Exodus chapters 29 and 30.
Yes.
Okay.
So these chapters today, my smidge of a takeaway, he has a lot more. From reading them, it's just such a reminder. Like, the whole point of this is because holy God wants to be in the presence and wants relationship with sinful people. He is so holy. Like, all of these details matter just so we can be in his presence for a moment. And like, for the priests, even all the ceremony that they're going through and what they're doing, I mean, in 2 seconds, they're not good enough to go in there, you know? And so it's just a reminder of the separation between the two, the difference between the two. But I love God's heart behind it. It's still worth it to him. Like, this list of things that they have to do in order to come into his presence, it's still worth it to him. He wants us to have relationship with him, whatever it takes.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so here's kind of my big takeaway, and then I want to get into a couple of things that might help you. Okay, first of all, we're seeing that while the priests are going through their ordination service. So this day is, you're going to also find this day happening in about Leviticus 8 and 9, about the same thing. So it's going to tell you about the same events, but it's going to give you different information, whether you're based in Exodus or Leviticus, and not different information like contradictory. It's going to add to and give you the full picture. For instance, what you don't know is that the day that Aaron and his sons are consecrated, we would use the word ordained as priests, is also the day of the first worship service within the temple. So they're coinciding. So now it's not just the temple, or the tabernacle, and it's not just the furniture, it's also the priest, so that the priest can be ready to do his job. And when he's ready to do his job, he's got a tabernacle in which to do the job. The reason why there's so much information about what you do and how you do it here is because nothing about the way we worship is to be carried out by human ingenuity. Yes, God has designed us to be creative. He's designed us to be different. If you go to one church versus the other, every church has their own unique personality and stuff. But listen, worship is about the exaltation of the name of the Most High, the one true God. And nothing about anything they're doing here was left up to them. They don't get any gray areas to go, you know what would be a good idea? No. God said, this is how you come into my presence. Now, take this whole thing and then go to John 14:6, where Jesus is saying, I am the way, the truth, the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. And if you're remembering back to Exodus and Leviticus and you're going, no, they had a definite path and strategy for exacting procedures. Now you know Jesus is going, hey, that's all me. I've done all, you go through me. You don't pick and choose your own pathway. No, you go through me. The other thing is, so in chapter 30, you've got some furniture, like the bronze laver. That's the place where the basin, all
Isn't that the same thing?
So the laver and the basin are, you can, depending on what version of your Bible. So that's a giant
like
bowl.
Lavar to wash.
Exactly. So that's a giant bowl that they're filling with water, and the priests are washing their hands ceremonially clean. The altar of incense, that's right inside the tent, not the walls, but inside the tent that's within the walls, to offer incense that would rise to heaven, symbolizing the prayers of God's people rising up. Okay, all of this has a lot of imagery that we're meant to do. But I think the big key takeaway here is the priest. So Moses' brother Aaron is chosen to be the high priest, and his sons are chosen to be priests. Now they have a family, the tribe of Levi. They're allowed to work in the temple and in the tabernacle, but only Aaron's family is allowed to serve as priests. Okay, here's what you got to get from them. They're dressed in the same colors and material as the tabernacle itself. Why? Because they belong there. They belong to the work of that ministry. When you see them, you think about the tabernacle. They are set apart. This whole idea of them being ordained into the work that God's giving them, it kind of has roots in the way we would ordain a minister or a missionary or a deacon, where we would lay hands on, we would pray on. What is that? Symbolically setting them aside and agreeing. So when somebody, for instance, somebody surrenders to ministry, they can have a calling on their lives and they go, I believe God's called me to ministry. So that calling, although personal, is both personal and corporate, in a way where when the priests were set apart to go into ministry, the whole congregation had to gather together and watch. So God had a personal calling, but the public congregation had to affirm, in a way where they're announcing, I believe the Lord's called me to do this, and the congregation says, we see that kind of in your life. We're sharing, we're being witnesses to that. So this is where we get somebody going into ministry. They announce that in front of their church prays over them. After a time, we ordain them, we lay hands on them and pray over them, commission them into the work of that has roots all the way back to this moment. What's interesting though is when Aaron and his sons become priests, the first thing they have to do is they have to offer an offering. The first offering is a sin offering. Why? Because they're priests, but they're sinners. Okay, so they have to offer a sin offering. By the way, what's the first offering? Now, there's 5 offerings given in like all of this stuff, but the first one is the sin offering, where they have to sacrifice a young bull. The irony is, what had Aaron just done so crazily? While Moses is up on the mountain, right? What did Aaron do? He was down at the bottom. He told everybody to give them their earrings, and he made what?
But that's coming up. He made a golden calf.
That's right. So this is not all kind of like in chronological order. It's thematic order. So Aaron is being consecrated as the high priest. His first act is to sacrifice a young bull, a calf, as a sin offering, because and the irony is, prior he had overseen the golden calf situation, and God says, no, we don't worship that. You worship me. Man. And by the way, let me show you what that's good for. And it dies.
It's an offering.
It's an offering. That's right. The other thing is, these priests have to offer offerings every single day. So not one offering, but they're why? Because they're continual sinners. Okay? Now, once you understand that, that's why this stuff is so good. It's like if a Bible code exists, okay? The end of Exodus and the book of Leviticus are about like, okay, have you ever listened to, and you love these, like a true crime podcast where there's something going on and then they dive deeper. And now they're uncovering all this evidence, and now all the dots, like you figuring out a crime or an event or a conspiracy theory, and you're like deep diving, you're going, oh, look how it all comes together. No. Exodus and Leviticus, all the stuff it's talking about here, when you understand this, you read the cross differently, because you go, oh gosh, that's exactly what this is. And so here's the thing. The book of Hebrews is going to tie all that together. It's going to say Jesus is the high priest, but he's a better high priest. He doesn't have to offer offerings for himself because he's sinless. So he's unlike Aaron. He doesn't have to offer them over and over and over again. Why? Because he offered them one time. The blood of Christ, sufficient for all the sins of the world, and so for all time. And so when you're watching Aaron be consecrated as a high priest, and his sons, and in the tabernacle, what you're hearing is God going, okay, I want you to be able to know me. Now let me just listen. I'm gonna say this and I'm done, because I think you got to get this. We are the only created beings in all the world God was this good to. So prior to humanity, you got the devil and the fallen angels of heaven. What did they do? They rebelled against God. What did God do? He cast them out. Now we call, like Lucifer, no longer an angel. He's Satan. These angels who fall there, now we call them demons. And look, that's what they'll always be until the Lord judges to the end of time, and they're sent to hell. They will not be redeemed. But when mortal man, made in the image of God, also rebelled, what did God do? He said, all right, we're going to institute a sacrificial system where something has to die in order for you to live. And because that's a day-to-day situation, and I am an eternal God, and I put within you an eternal soul, I'm going to send my own son. He is going to die, and his blood is going to save you for eternity. All of this is pointing us to the cross. So when you're reading this, don't tune out like, oh, well, we don't make those sacrifices anymore. No, we don't make these sacrifices because they were made at the cross. That's why we understand the cross. So that's why we're reading this. Please, listen, enjoy this and search it.
Did.
Okay, I did. I liked it. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.